Next month should have been a time for celebration for LGBT rights advocates, as it marks the first anniversary of the Council of Grand Justice's ruling paving the way for the legalization of same-sex marriage within 2 years. However, the Central Election Commission's decision on Tuesday to approve 3 gay-unfriendly referendum proposals has added uncertainty over the future of same-sex couples in the nation. Let us take a look at the proposed questions first. One of the proposals submitted by the anti-gay group Alliance for the Happiness of the Next Generation asks, do you agree with the Civil Code's restriction of marriage to a union between a man and a woman only? Another one would ask people whether they think that the right to same-sex marriage should be granted by a means other than amending the Civil Code. The last proposal asks the public whether it supports exempting elementary and junior high students from receiving education about homosexuality that is mandated by the Gender Equity Education Act. On the surface, none of the 3 referendum proposals blatantly contradicts constitutional interpretation No. 748, which, despite ruling that the Civil Code's prohibition of same-sex marriage is unconstitutional, gives concerned authorities leeway to decide through what legislative measure they plan to protect LGBT couples' right to marry. However, the results of the 3 referendums, should they garner the more than 280,000 signatures each required to pass the second threshold and be put to a vote, could nevertheless influence how lawmakers and the government legalize same-sex unions. If the first 2 proposed referendums are passed, they would send a strong message to those in power that a majority of Taiwanese do not think that homosexual couples deserve the same treatment and constitutional protection as those afforded to heterosexual couples. Moreover, the underlying message is that most Taiwanese still regard homosexuality as an oddity and that the condition should therefore be dealt with in a separate context, which means a separate piece of legislation on the matter. Despite the interpretation's issuance on May 24 last year, LGBT rights advocates have not turned complacent and have instead stepped up their advocacy for real equality, something they believe can only be achieved by extending the Civil Code's definition of marriage to also include homosexual couples. Segregated legislation would not guarantee equality, far from it. What if descendants of so-called new immigrants were barred from receiving education in Taiwan and the government decided to lift the ban, but on one condition, that they be separated from the descendants of Taiwanese in a different classroom? The 2 groups would both be guaranteed the right to education, but would you call that equality? Also, protecting young pupils from education about homosexuality would not make the nation's non-heterosexual population go away. Doing so would only instill the idea that homosexuality is forbidden and bizarre in young minds, and impede the nation from becoming a more tolerant society. The 3 proposed referendums serve as a wake-up call to rights advocates that the battle over same-sex marriage is not yet over and that they need the support of like-minded people more than ever.